the bigger picture is that there is a way to invest in employees and in teammates, that return on investment is greater than the risk of being taken advantage of.
Welcome to another episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast. I am David Gilliland, one of your hosts here with Elite Entrepreneurs. We're so delighted to have Dena Prastus with us out of Indigo River. Dena, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, David.
Did I say the name right, or did I need to fix something?
Nope, you got it right.
That's fantastic. Dena, you're doing some cool stuff on the waterfront. This architectural work, helping people enjoy those spaces, and really thinking about both functionality now and how it will be affected as things keep rising. Waterfronts are testy places, not easy to work with. And tell us, how did you get started in this? What was the passion that drove this work for you?
So I think if I look back at my childhood, one of my core values is certainly a relationship with nature, and appreciating all that it has to offer and respecting the natural forces at play. And so I remember in my childhood, I grew up in Anchorage, Alaska. That's no joke in terms of climate and extreme weather and hardship. And I studied architecture and engineering in my education, my college background, and I saw the opportunity through experiences working on the waterfront to dive in and make a specialized company focused on climate adaptation on the waterfront. And so that's what we've done. And it's a really exciting place to work. And you mentioned it, the sea levels are rising. It's a vulnerable condition. It's a geophysical property that's probably more vulnerable than any other that we have. And so it's really a wonderful area to be working and focusing a career and a company.
Very cool. Yeah, great niche and great service. Tell me a little bit now, as you've been growing, as you've been doing this. I mean, you guys have gotten past the Dena's just doing this thing on the side, and two or three other people to a serious company. What are some of the challenges and lessons learned? Things that have really helped you go beyond that team of 6, 7, 8 to where you are today.
Yeah, I would say that doing it on the side phase didn't really exist. We lined everything up to jump in full force, and I have a business partner, Shay Thorvaldson, who we timed it to take on our first client on a retainer basis, so we weren't worried about uh, cash flow or income, and we were able to really grow organically from that point on. And so we have
Nice.
about 20 architects, engineers, and planners that work with us, and really focus the business on services that are needed. We're also able to offer services as minority, women, and veteran businesses in New York Harbor and beyond.
Very cool. And what are some nuggets that you would share? You're like, this has been a key to our growth, key to our success. Whether that came from, failing, or that came from succeeding through it. Give us a nugget.
Absolutely. Learning out of failure is certainly essential. And we've had unfortunate experiences and challenges that we've grown out of, whether in our individual backgrounds or lessons learned as a company. But we embrace them. We don't hide them. We're transparent about what they are. And that's part of our culture, and speak to our core values as individuals as well, that we're not perfect, but we'll take a stab. We'll run with it. We trust each other, and the relationships that we've formed are uh, robust in that they are versatile and kind of multi-pronged, not just in one dimension, but we're able to support each other in many different ways.
So you've got this high trust environment and also a transparent one where everybody sees what's going on. Uh, was that just always part of the DNA? I mean, that can be difficult for some to really share with the whole team. Here's what's happening. How did you get to that point?
I think we got to that point out of not having that transparency ourselves early in our career, and feeling like what was being asked of us, and my experience in particular, what was being asked of me, kind of impossible tasks of manage this budget that you don't have the access to see the full budget. And how can you do that? And that was kind of throughout my career of feeling like I didn't have the full picture. I was capable of more if only I had access to more information. And so we've done the opposite, and we are built on a culture of trust, and feel like we're aware, we're not naive, we may be taken advantage of, we're smart about what we do, but The bigger picture is that there is a way to invest in employees and in teammates, that return on investment is greater than the risk of being taken advantage of.
So what you're trying to tell me is you let your team see everyone's pay because it's the only way they could control their budget and get the work done on time and budget. Is that fair?
Yep, billable rates in the budget are all available to individuals. I mean, we work on a lot of government projects; they're auditable as well, so it's not anything that if someone was dedicated enough couldn't find through normal channels anyway.
Yeah. Um, and and you've seen what it was like without that. How much of an advantage has it given you having your team fully aware of the true costs of running the business, how things are going? How much of an advantage have you had in your business versus when several things were hidden behind the curtain and you were still a dedicated worker, but tell me about the advantage. What's the
Yeah,
payoff been?
I think in our case, there, I mean, the trust goes both ways, and we have developed loyalty. We're not a high turnover culture. We invest deeply in our employees and are in it for the long game, and not to be, a stepping stone. And if someone has, potential to grow, we help them grow, even if it's in direction that's, slightly askew or slightly tangential to our normal core business. We'll explore it with them, because at the end of the day, having competent, trustworthy people is worth expanding and turning the page, writing the next chapter together, and not in competition or losing along the way. So that's something that I think for my business partner and for myself, we've seen the flip side, and we've experienced what it is to not be trusted, or to not be able to produce the potential that we have. And that's really challenging to reconcile when you're capable of more, but there are obstacles in the way, and it's things that you have no control over. And so that's something that we've worked hard to make available, and it's built loyalty. And I think also the fact that we're not greedy people, we're not top heavy in what we're taking as salaries, what we're taking, we're productive principles, we're working in the trenches with everyone else. When something comes up, a family emergency or whatnot, we're all offering ways that we can help. We're not kind of top down directing and abandoning and just taking the cream off the top.
Oh, okay. So this is where some of the keys are and why it's so
Mhm.
successful for you is that it's not just, oh, we're a transparent company, so we allow people to think and act like business owners, right? To really
Yeah,
understand what's going
yeah,
on. But it's also that we're living true to, I mean, the idea of everyone can see who's adding what value
yeah,
and they see that they earn it,
yeah.
right? Uh, and that keeps the culture alive. Now, I mean, you mentioned a couple of things. I mean, one was you just said, so our turnover's low. And when it comes to professional services, that's the key to profitability in so many ways, right? Just have to rehire new that spot over and over again.
Finding the
And
talent, training the
oh,
talent. Yeah,
and
it's a nightmare if you can avoid it.
the turnover with our customers because they're like, well, who am I working with now, right? And
Yeah,
they lose that connection. Such a huge value add there. Uh, and then there's the other side, which is just, and you didn't say this, but I will for me, the mental well-being, where you're like, wait, I don't have to try to hide something. I get to be my best self. They get to be their best selves. I get to just move forward, less friction. Some reason, the more I hide, the heavier the load is by myself. I feel very isolated,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's very true.
So anyway, I love what you shared. Thanks so much, Dena. Uh, well, you've earned some things now. You've gotten to some places. You guys have really made a mark, and you have so much more you want to do. What are you working on now? What's the latest? Like, David, we've got a handful of minutes. Let's fix this problem because if I can fix this one, I can keep going. We can keep creating more.
I think it's a bigger challenge. It's not one project. We're working on a lot of exciting projects, but it's not one project that I think is going to make or break us as a firm. It's a belief in a direction that our infrastructure, our assets are worth reinvesting in, and worth doing so with a resilient mindset and attitude. And when we work on the waterfront, and it is a vulnerable area, um, it really comes down to educating the client, educating the operations team, educating the maintenance teams, in terms of what the vulnerabilities are, what the different interventions that can be deployed are. Talk about, flood proofing coastlines and things that they're, so susceptible and vulnerable to damages and astronomical cost of insurances, and whether or not you can even get a policy after so many incidents and events. And so it's really designing, from the start, with a resilient mindset, that even if a client wants something, for a 20-year design life, there's an opportunity for, marginal increased cost up front to, double or triple that lifespan of whatever that asset or whatever that infrastructure is. And so designing, early on in the process, and involving stakeholders in the decisions that have a lasting impact for not only the immediate end user, but for generations to come.
So you've figured that out and know how to do that with your prospective clients and help them
We
see.
we do, and we endeavor to continue to do that. It's not always an option on every project and with every client, but that's our mentality when we approach, every project.
So so how do you do that personally, Dena? How do you do that so it's not designing for waterfront changes, but it is designing for life changes? Or it's designing for growth of your team, or for how you lead in an ever-changing environment there. What kinds of struggles or things are you dealing with now that maybe we can help a little?
So I think I love drawing the parallels for personal life or even for professional growth. I think that the attitude of resilience and being willing to course correct and revisit and um, redesign is really important. And so we can set goals as individuals. I personally have gone through over 6 years of fertility treatments and recently did start a family. But the 6 years that we were going through fertility treatments were really challenging, and especially
Rough.
while running a company. And it was something that uh, it helped me to be able to open up and speak to my people about what I was going through in the end. And I was, bottled up for much of it. And I think maybe that's one of the things that kind of unlocked, in the end, and enabled me to grow a family, enabled us to grow a family. But that's, the attitude of resilience, the mindset of, it's not one and done. It's something that you can get up and you can keep fighting. You can come back to, and that goes for built infrastructure as well as, emotional resilience.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. And there's a few high water marks, we'll call them, or like stages where it's like we know. Let's say the 20-year mark for a company, when they hit that 10 employees space, they're going to be able to go if they can set up the infrastructure right. We like call it your processes, your structure and system, and especially for your team. We can set it up right, then we're able to shift gears there and not sort of get bogged down or flooded. And you can grow. In fact, you can triple in size. And you're in the middle of that right now. You've built some processes. You have clarity because I've heard you saying it. You have clarity around your vision. Everybody knows where you're going. That speaks to our purpose. It talks about the core values on who we are. You're really clear about and and I don't know about this piece, but here's our metric of success for the next 3 years. This is the impact we want to have on waterfront access for all in the community, right? Like, here's what we want to do. We want to create whatever that looks like 10,000 acres of waterfront playland.
Mhm.
That's huge, right? Especially with the kind of urban stuff you do. But whatever the number is, that your team can work towards, that's a solid vision. I'm hearing you talk about some of that stuff. And then you've got the right people in and you're treating them right and trying to organize things well. That's the 10 to 30 run. There's a new high water mark that hits you right around 30. If it's helpful, would you like to talk about what can we do so that when I get to 30, we don't find ourselves underwater? We don't find ourselves drowning, personally, professionally, financially, and some of the shifts that need to happen there.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's play then. So you've got a cool thing about you, Dena, where you deeply care and about the work itself and the impact it has on your community. And I bet all 20 of your people feel it. Is that fair?
That's fair, and many of them have a similar
Yeah,
mindset, and it resonates because they also care about the work.
that's right. You have learned how to hire people and attract them that love this. It's just so key. And it's just this great success. There's a shift right around 30 where you can't touch everyone the same way anymore. You just get to be too many people. There may be people hired that you never met as you go to 40, 50, 60. And yet they have to feel this connection to this vision just as powerfully as all of the people that every time that they're meeting with you, they're like, oh, yeah, Dena sacrifices to make this vision come true. We see the numbers. She's not sitting fat and happy up here. She's making what she should. It's good. But she cares about us. She's supporting us, all that sort of stuff. They have to all feel it. They all have to see it. And one of the shifts, and it's a hard one, but it's to become a leader of leaders, which pulls you a bit out of the trench of the engineering and design work that you've loved so much. So let me ask first, are you willing to talk this direction, or is this heresy and you're just going to throw me
Oh
out
no,
anyway?
I've been in that direction. I'm good to discuss it.
Okay,
I'm good
let's
to
talk
break it
about it
down.
then. That's because it's one of the key things that has to happen. Though you're an expert in your field, you have to start living in a space of, I find joy and fulfillment in creating other experts.
Yeah.
Like, I used to go home loving being the superwoman who solved the day. Now I need to be like Edna. You know, if you ever watch The Incredibles,
Yep.
she makes the outfits. She makes the superhero in some sense, right? I've got to be comfortable being Edna, or Gandalf, or whatever your mythical thing is, right? Uh,
Yep.
and it's such a critical role. Um, so the new kind of work that needs to happen is, first you have to want it. You have to want to be a leader of leaders. You have to want to set direction. You have to want to be, which you're already doing. I mean, you've got your own podcast stuff. You're out there in a technical sense, sharing with people about the latest and greatest, to be the voice of innovation, or to be the one that's connecting all the right people out there to shift the industry, to get where it needs to be, and to therefore place your business also in a spot that it is there to respond to those needs as people see them and understand them. So there's this influencing the outside, there's this direction setting for your company, and there's a sponsorship of who are these new leaders and how good can I get at building other leaders regularly. That it becomes the main work, because then each of them can lead passionately all the people that they're touching, because they're going to have 10 to 30 around them, right? So you can see how the multiple starts happening. You influence these 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They influence their 10, 11, 12, 13, 15, 30, right? That this next batch that comes through. So everyone feels it. And it's different because you're not designing anymore. Site visits, just to introduce new influencers to the idea. And I don't mean like social media influencers. I mean serious building influencers, right? And urban planning influencers. When we start thinking this other way, this is a new job. So when you see it and you start to say, "Oh, I really want that," then it's enough of a pull to start to let go of this by way of identifying our future talent, being clear what it takes to lead instead of just manage. Because, Dena, you have not been just managing your business, you've been leading it. And we need to help the others to truly lead where they feel confident in setting a powerful, like audacious kind of vision where they want to go with this part of the business that's all aligned with the bigger one. And so you start to say, wait a second. So I was an engineer. Now you're telling me I'm what, a preacher? Pretty close. Pretty close. You will champion the vision through to the end. You will be waving that banner and you will invite others to wave it with you. And it's different work, but it's powerful work. So that will take you from 3 to 100 people with that shift. And that kind of leading will help you through to as large as you ever need to be. but there is some other key work still to shift and some other high watermarks. But I don't think we need to talk about those
Too far
because
out.
this one's immediate. This is a piece we can do something with now. Um, One of the beauties of doing it is when you have a team that starts to think strategically with or even for you,
Hmm.
and they're planning out what your business has to look like 5 years from now to meet the demand, to respond to the changes in the environment,
Yep.
both business and physical environment in your case,
Yep.
the demographic shifts on who we're bringing in and how we're leading them, right? All of this to be able to best serve the various communities around the world that we'll need to be serving. When they just get better and better at that, what's fun is you'll feel like, wait a second, what's my job, right? We talked a little bit about these other things, but you won't know how to fill that time perfectly yet. And you'll be able to carve out and ensure you make time to hit the same watermarks that are happening in your family. You have some growth goals, right? You shared with us on a podcast. That's awesome. You've got a little girl. I mean, what a delight. Uh, well, what? How are we going to help her to meet her challenges? And you want that time and you want that attention to be able to do that well. Building a team that can grow your business without you is one of the keys to be able to do that. The other one is to not wait until you get there. It's to block out the time now. Block it out now. Every time that you're like, "Oop, what broke while I was doing my number one job? What
Yep.
broke in the business? This did. Let's build the process. Who am I calling in to help me build the process to fix that? That shouldn't break when I'm doing my number one job. It should flourish. So keep doing it. Come back, see what broke, fix it, go back, do the number one, see what broke, right? And just keep doing those iterations. And you'll find that your business can serve your needs, your team's needs, and your customer needs. They're not actually at odds, they can be aligned. So,
Love that.
okay, any questions you want to dive? Because I probably shared some garbage too. That you're like, David, no, really. Let's dive into this. This was too fluffy. I'm an engineer. Give me some specifics.
Oh
Push
no,
away.
I love it. I'm with you, and I think I've had a taste. I went out on maternity leave, and it was kind of relinquishing some of the day to day and coming back to the realization of, oh, this can operate without me, and I can just
Yes.
troubleshoot when something really needs me. So a small kind of toe in the water experience of tasting that and looking to kind of grow in that direction. So I subscribe.
I, I love that. And you can plan it in just as intentionally. The maternity leave may have been 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 3 months, that's 12. Anyway, right around in that area. Um, you can intentionally block out some other time too.
Yeah.
And you can give it to a couple of buckets. Take 3 days off every month and do a couple intensive days that you're just getting to be a mom, and do an intensive day that you get to think the executive role,
Yeah.
where you're not touching any of the day to day, and just watch what breaks with 3 days off. Expand it, right? Make it a little larger, do a little more time and space until pretty soon, no daily operations from sales to fulfillment to back office support, that
Yeah.
none of those actually need you. And that's where we really need to get to if you're going to lead leaders at the next level.
Great.
Okay. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to watch your blog as you talk about look at the life I can live while running my business. This is fun. Anything else, Dena, you want to talk about today, or should we be wrapping up?
No, that's great. It's been a lovely conversation. I've enjoyed it thoroughly.
Well, I'm so glad. Dena, if anyone listening wished that they could figure out this, like how they could use their waterfront property better and wiser, or want to figure out how in the world can I run my business while I'm having a kid, I'm in the middle of this same thing and want to get in touch with you, how do they contact you?
So I am active on LinkedIn. I'm active through our website. We have a contact form, and I'm always loving to hear feedback from podcasts and from anything that resonates with someone. And if I can help with my experience, I'm happy to.
Fantastic. Thanks again. And that wraps up this episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast. Uh, Dena, what you brought was valuable, and we are forever grateful. For those who are listening, if you found value for yourself, please like and share. Get it to other seven-figure business owners so they too can learn some of these insights. Until next time, keep striving, keep growing, keep learning, and keep caring.